there it is. Yep.
Okay, awesome. And let me do this. Okay, let's do a redo. Work-life balance for busy professionals, mastering work-life harmony, success strategies for busy professionals at Amazon. My name is Dr. Sarah Renee Langley. You can always find me on drsarahreneelangley.com, and you can also check me out on LinkedIn /IN /DR SarahReneeLangley.com. All right. And so, opening quote, balance is not something you find, it is something you create, by Jana Kingsford. As I mentioned, the four C's, if you want to remember me, it would be coach, counselor, consultant, and caregiver. I love the fact that not only am I here having taught and coached and counseled and consulted hundreds of thousands in the course of my 29-year career. I know I don't look it. It looks like I've been doing this since coming out the womb because black doesn't crack. But indeed, I have been in the mental health and professional development space for nearly 3 decades. And having helped so many people in regards to how to do the work life balance and harmony, it was also about me learning how to do the same thing. Because how can I teach you how to fish if I haven't done it for myself? So having to learn how to attend to my professional career as well as my personal responsibilities as a caregiver. So yes, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being low, 10 being high, work-life balance spectrum. How well balanced do you feel your work-life harmony is today? If you can let me know, that'd be great. You can put it in the chat or you can share with me. What is your score?
Well, I dropped in there about a 6, as I know it can be better, but it's challenging.
Sure, sure. What had it to be a 6?
I think you think about just kind of the demands of our career and depending on what role you're in, and how at times it pulls you away from things. But I believe a big part of that is also setting boundaries, to ensure that you have the time and space that you need when it's most important.
Excellent answer. Thank you so much, Keisha, for sharing. What do you think is needed to move it from not a 6 to a 10, but just to a 6 to a 6.5?
At times it can be organization, and processes, but we work in a business, where change happens a lot, and even the operating hours, it's not like a 9 to 5 corporate job. Much of what's done in our organization, especially within the logistics portion of it, happens overnight so that customers have that great experience of waking up to a package at their door.
Sure, sure. Thank you so much for sharing your lived experience. This is true, it's valid, and this is real. And it's not going to be a matter of it being a idealistic way of having to balance work and life, but it is to incorporate and to acknowledge and factor in the real life intricacies of what your work is. And how do we now navigate that to make it not only successful to the customers, but also to you as an employee, as a leader at Amazon? So thank you for sharing. All right. So our objectives today is to define work-life balance or work-life harmony and knowing the importance of balance for productivity, health, and job satisfaction. So you already shared with me, Keisha, for those who are going to watch or listen to this video, think of a time when you were challenged with balancing workloads and personal responsibilities. Think of a time when you were challenged with balancing workloads and personal responsibilities. My question to you is, how did you respond? How did you respond? You can drop it in the chat or you can share with me as well, Keisha, and anyone that could jump in. How do you think you respond when you think of a time that you were challenged with balancing your workload and personal responsibilities?
Well, I'll share with you, one that I found, midway through my career is being offered the opportunity to move into a role with a larger scope. And I was asked to relocate a couple states away. However, I understood that would be very difficult for me and my family at the time. And so I expressed that with my direct manager. However, I went to them with a solution, versus relocating, traveling biweekly to support the teams in that area. And they were aligned with that. And with that, I had to put processes and steps in place to ensure that my home life was in order during those weeks that I traveled. But I knew that was the case. And so I created a process to ensure that I didn't miss anything there as I was traveling to do my job.
Excellent, excellent response and answer. Thank you so much, Keisha. Actually, when I had done a similar presentation earlier for Amazon about navigating organizational change, we talked about not only some of the facets of being effective in the constant change, because that's the only thing that's constant is change. How do you navigate through it effectively, successfully? And I talked about 5 Ps. What were the reasons behind? What were the reasons behind the challenges that people may have in navigating change in the workplace? And you actually gave answers in regards to some of the things that we said in when you mentioned about communication. So you conveyed to your higher ups what your needs were. You included yourself and thought about your family while also thinking about your job and your customers, the employees. How does this affect everyone in the bottom line? You were able to have a relationship and collaborated to the point that they were able to trust you, and which is another important ingredient is trust, being able to build trust and being able to show up as your best self that have them to buy in to being supportive and to help and to listen and to see how you can make things happen and work. And with that being said, you were able to navigate and make it work a win-win-win for everyone. So the fact that you had one of the pieces that we mentioned out of the 5, and you can always check out the video and the presentation on navigating organizational change at Amazon. We talked about being able to pivot. Sometimes we have to learn how to pivot, how to adjust, how to course correct so that it's not about trying to stay comfortable all the time, because how else do we grow otherwise if we stay the same? Even though the fear is uncertainty, because many that had attended that presentation shared that the anxiety, the uncertainty of it all, of what is unfamiliar, what is the unknown. But to help with knowing how to balance work life, it is a matter of being able to reframe. And reframe just means looking at it differently so that you can get a different result. Because, hey, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different result. So sometimes we have to step back, look at the bigger picture of it all from a macro level, as opposed to being in the weeds of it all, and being able to assess how can this be a win-win-win for all of us? How can this work? How do we problem solve? How do we now come with solutions, which is the other thing that you shared, Keisha. So that was great that you came not only looking for answers, but you already had a system or process and strategy and solution to the problem to bring to the table. So being able to reframe and look at the challenges differently, such as what is the opportunity in it that can make it work for all. So thank you for that. Now, challenges to work-life balance for Amazon professionals. You let me know if this resonates. You can put it in the chat. Fast-paced environment, heavy workloads, remote versus hybrid work. So having to, especially after the pandemic, for many people having to work at home, but then also when the pandemic was over and then started going back to work, having that setup where you can work from home, also have to come into work, into the physical building. That can be a challenge because people have adjusted after the pandemic to staying at home. um, I was talking to my brother and how the mayor in the city that he lives in, where we're from, had for 4 years they were working from home, and my brother was just he was just appreciating it and enjoying it. And he was telling me the other day how he was just so upset with the new mayor because he had to go back to work, and he's been working for the city for 31 years, he said. So I remember when he was working physically in the building 5 days a week, and he would work overtime often. So then having to, become frustrated with the fact that having to work at home and having to adjust to then 4 years later, you get adjusted and now change happens. And now you got to go back into the building. And it is a matter of how do you set the boundaries, which is another thing, Keisha, that you shared. I feel like you were already like kind of checking out my information when I was putting this PowerPoint together, because you certainly have the answers today. There's a stat: 40%, according to Forbes, 40% of professionals report remote work blurs lines between work and personal life, which again throws a monkey wrench into it. How do you balance the two? How do you now work from home and actually be successful in it while then having to transition to back to being in the physical building and having a hybrid model? And now, how do you juggle both? So it has been rather challenging, and that's realistic for people trying to transition and into the new change or a new normal. Burnout contributes to 50% of employee turnover, according to the Gallup report. I remember I was also, providing a presentation in regards to this statistic. I remember back in 2008, I had to provide how to do work-life balance and stress management for busy professionals, and they were working as in the for the mental health division in the prison system. And back then, it was the employee turnover was about the same percentage and how much money they lost. Then it was about maybe $300 million that annually that is lost back in 2008. Here we are in the year of our Lord 2024. And if that number didn't go up to nearly billions of dollars, that's lost in revenue because of employee turnover, because of burnout. I can only imagine how many of you can say who has ever been maxed out, burnt out, and stressed out because of the imbalance between work and home. Another stat is that 76% of employees feel the work stress. And I just have you to, this is more of a rhetorical question. What are your biggest challenges when it comes to work-life balance? What are your biggest challenges when it comes to work-life balance? So, in order for us to tackle the problem of burnout, we have to recognize it. So, signs of burnout: exhaustion, lack of accomplishment, cynicism. What I would like to talk about is giving you some quick tips that can help you to alleviate the burnout, to regroup and recenter, and to know not only about balancing, but more so grounding and being centered in the work life harmony. There is a difference between the balancing act and actually the harmony aspect of it. And I'll talk about that in a minute. But one of the tips that I want to leave with you so far to how to deal with the burnout is something called, now I'm pulling on my counseling hat. Um, one model for treatment is called EMDR, and that just stands for eye movement desensitization reprocessing. Fancy smancy word. More so talking about how do we help you to, um, let me illustrate this for you. So I may be the only one that ever been stressed. I won't ask you to show by a raise of hands. When we are stressed, it's because of a lot of things that we're taking in. My background on the counseling end is cognitive behavioral therapy, and that just means that my school of thought is more around the lines of the way that you think determines how you behave. So I believe that the way that you think determines your behavior. So when we're stressed, we're taking in information that is triggering our whole totality of ourselves in regards to how we are thinking, how we are feeling, the perceived threat that's causing us to feel the distress within us in our body, sending the signal back to our brain that our brain is serving to protect us. We need to protect ourselves, such as called the fear or the fight, flight, freeze. Fight, flight, freeze. Who ever heard of that? And so either you're going to fight through, either you're going to freeze up, or you're going to flee from the situation to try to avoid something. With EMDR, it helps you to reprocess, because it's as if whatever memories or triggers or traumas that has resulted in the challenges that you've gone through that resulted in burnout, which is honestly, burnout in and of itself, believe it or not, is another coping mechanism. It's helping you to shut down so that you can regroup and recenter and then be able to rejuvenate and go back to whatever you're doing. Except sometimes we're stuck in that traumatic experience or that triggering experience, and it never got to be processed. Meaning, what did you learn from the situation? Know always that emotions aren't dictating anything. Emotions are just indicators of something going on, and it bears a message. In life, it's not, I believe it was Nelson Mandela who said, um, there is no such thing as winning and losing, it's only winning and learning. You may not have won, but you sure did learn. That's my emphasis on it. So, what did you learn in life? What did you learn in your situations? And that challenges are there to help grow you, to cultivate you, to get you to the next level, to get you to your purpose. So, if I can help you to consider reframing your mindset around challenges so that it's not having you to kick up that response in your mind, to avoid, to fight through, to freeze up, but to rather process it. How do you learn? What do you learn? What is the meaning that you're giving to the situation? How do you move forward in it? Keisha has shared about her situation where she had to figure out, and I'm paraphrasing it all, how does she still mind her family and taking care of them and still work with this adjustment and change that was going on? And she had a moment to figure it out. We tend to try to logic a lot of things, which is okay, yet that is another protective measure, trying to think everything through. But that doesn't allow for the rest of us because we are comprised of mind, body, and soul. So we're overloaded by just thinking all the time, but not allowing our intuition, our emotional intelligence, our critical thinking skills. If we don't allow the situation to turn those or activate those parts of us that we have yet to tap into and to know, then you're on the verge and on the pathway of burnout, maxed out, stressed out. But if you allow yourself to now trust the process and trust yourself within, you'll be better for it. And that's what EMDR helps you to do. So it is to think of your nervous system as being uh, whacked out pretty much because of the challenges, the triggers, the traumas that is impacting how you are interpreting it and is conditioning you to now be on high alert all the time. We got to bring it down. We have to get you to a calm state so then you can make sense of everything that's going on. So, doing so, all you have to do is help the nervous system. There's two parts of your nervous system is the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. The sympathetic is always about trying to get you heightened up to fight, flight, or freeze. Parasympathetic helps to calm. So, if you ever heard of mindfulness work, such as breathing, tapping, touching, that helps the parasympathetic nervous system to be activated or triggered to bring you down in a calm state. So, what you can do on your spare time, you don't have to wait. Here's the key and the trick to it. You don't have to wait for a challenge to happen for you to try to do and to leverage these techniques because it will seem like it won't work. You may come back to me like you may message me on LinkedIn, Dr. Langley, I tried to do the EMDR thing, the tapping thing, the breathing thing, and it didn't work. Well, here go. It has to be based on when everything's fine. It's not a matter of using it for then when everything is in disarray or high alert. It is about when everything is just fine. And now you are conditioning and retraining your brain to think of how do you keep at a calm state to build up that memory muscle and to build up a new default, a new way of thinking. Right now, you're defaulting to what is already there, how you respond, how you react, how you interpret the worst case scenarios to everything, how you're logicking everything. Now I'm helping to disrupt your thought process to think of how do you build a new default when everything's fine so that you can give your subconsciousness um, ammunition, so to speak, on how to address and to deal and respond accordingly to stress, to changes for the overall point and goal of work-life harmony. So doing something called the 333 breathing. All you have to do is be in a relaxed state, think of something, imagine something that that's calming or peaceful, that stimulates your senses. So we have you have the hearing, the seeing, the feeling, I always miss one of them. So y'all can put in the chat the one that I may miss. The tasting, and I forget the other one. So taste, smell, hear, see, and I always forget the fifth, but y'all know the fifth one. You are tapping into your senses. That is the quickest way to help to calm yourself. So breathing, you would just sit, imagine something that brings something of calm and peace and joy to you. And then you inhale for 3 seconds, and then you hold for 3 seconds, and then you exhale for 3 seconds. So you can count it. So inhale for up to three, hold it for three, exhale for three. And you can do that about 3 times or as often as you need to, just to help regulate and to manage your nervous system. That will kick in the parasympathetic portion of your nervous system to help bring the signal back to your brain that everything is fine, you are safe. Another thing to do is body scan. You can check in with your body, and there is no right or wrong. So you don't have to be like, okay, well, how do I know? How do I sense? That's your thinking again, trying to protect you. Just free associate. And all that means just first thing that come to mind. So you can check in with your body right now. You can put in a chat. When I ask you to do a body scan to just check in with your body, you can do it for 2 minutes, but for the sake of this presentation, it's just quick here. Just to check in with your body, do an inhale, exhale, and locate in your body where there's any type of distress or where there's any calm. Typically, certain parts of your body, it means something, is representative to something in association with what you think. So, an example would be, and don't quote me, I know that when people find challenges or feel like a heaviness around their chest area and shoulders, they feel like they're burdened with the weight of the world, with whatever problems that they're dealing with. If they find that they're challenged and they feel some type of heaviness or blockage in their throat, that can mean that they have something to say, then it's being like suppressed. So if you get headaches, oftentimes that means that you're thinking about a lot of things and you need to offload those thoughts. And usually I would suggest journaling, being able to offload before going to bed, writing the things that's on your mind, putting it on paper so that you can channel it out so you can have a better night's rest. So these are some quick tips just to help you to recognize and to prevent burnout. Any questions or comments? I know that was quite a bit of information, so I just wanted to pause for a second to see if there are any.
I think those were some great tips for handling stress. I know one thing I thought about with this group and the Black Employee Network, um, with the research that you've done and seen, have you seen that there is anything additional that leaders of color should be doing as they deal with stress in the workplace and at times how it's handled and how it's perceived versus their peers?
Sure, excellent question. First thought, free associating, that I found that was most helpful in talking to other Black peers and leaders. It was about not being an island to themselves, actually talking, having a network and a group. We're big, if anything, as women as well, where connecting with others, having that connectedness is key. And I know that at times we think negatively, and it's justified because when we say something and then it may get put out there, or how do they perceive us, or they think we're being vulnerable and weak, and all of that, those are justifiable, valid feelings and thoughts. And you have to weigh the difference between how is this serving you to not say anything, to keep it to yourself, to now want to be seen as the strong Black woman or the strong Black man while you're suffering in silence. So, one of the most effective ways was communicating their challenges, their needs, getting accountability partners, being able to collaborate and connect and brainstorm with others so that they're sitting in a community of listening to what has worked for someone else and then also contributing how what worked for them, they were able to share. So that was one of the most effective things that many of my clients and those that I have provided presentations for and asked that question, as Black leaders, as Black employees, have mentioned that while it has been challenging, nevertheless they found it effective to communicate, to partner up, to have accountability partners. So I hope that answers your question.
It does. And thank you so much for sharing that. Because I know for me personally, I think, as you spoke through some of that, I thought through some of my accountability partners, my partners is actually a group of Black women, and we came over from another organization together and kind of just trickled into Amazon, but we've kept that connection. And it definitely helps during difficult times to be able to reach out to them, and one, to check yourself if you are in the wrong, but then also to discuss how to overcome some of the problems you may be encountering in the workforce.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing, Keisha, because yes, we are not an island to ourselves, and we can be big on trying to do things on our own and justify with what we've experienced, what we witnessed, what we have concluded and perceived. And at the same time, it's the cost, the risk and the benefit. What weighs more, suffering in silence? Because stress is a silent killer, especially among the African American community as well, because we take on so much and we lack so much. So we have to offset that. And what better way to offset it that has always actually been helpful is a community. It takes a village to raise a child, to raise a nation. We have to open our mouths. As my mama used to say, a closed mouth don't get fed. So we got to speak up, even in the risk of how we're going to be perceived. But in the end, it's well worth it and it benefits. Even if there are people who's going to say something and talk about you or perceive you wrong or want to put your business out there, that does not weigh over your peace of mind, your energy, your boundary setting, your peace. That is more invaluable. So thank you for that. Now, prioritizing self care. Self care is a non negotiable. I hope you all are saying it, even though I may can't hear you. Say that loud and proud. Self care is a non negotiable. Your sleep, your nutrition, your exercising. And listen, you can do things in moderation. You don't have to, if you aren't able to go to the gym. Keisha had mentioned earlier about, and I'm paraphrasing again, being able to, um, certain things that you can do, certain things you can't do because of your work schedule. The traditional hours of a 9 to 5 doesn't necessarily apply for many of you working for Amazon. How do you modify that? How do you pivot? How do you adjust? So if you're able to take a quick walk, even walking from your car to the building, being able to see what things you can do and count it as part of. So it may not be the idealistic thing, but it's the realistic thing that still helps to benefit you in the end. So seeing if you can modify and being okay with modifying what will work in your favor. Just know that self-care is not being selfish. It's self-preserving. It's okay to think about you. Because a lot of times in society, we've been taught, oh, to humble ourselves and think about everybody else while you are suffering, while you are depleted. You are a cup trying to pour into someone else, and you have a hole in yours, and you're trying to preserve or conserve whatever you have, and you barely have anything, if at all. I remember a client talking about how she was running, she was running on E and still had 1,000 miles to go. Whoever felt that? I felt that in talking with her. And now we got to change the narrative and rewrite this. Where now you look at it as it's okay to be selfish because being selfish is self-preserving. Making sure that you capitalize on this and add to you prioritizing your self-care by implementing micro habits. I mentioned a moment ago, whether you're doing 3 to 5 minutes. I always tell my clients before going to bed and first thing in the morning. If you can do this twice a day, 7 to 14 days, you'll start to see a difference if you are consistent. Um, they say, whoever they are, I'm still trying to find who they are. They say 28 days, 21 to 28 days, you create a habit. 90 days, you create a lifestyle. We're trying to now help you to create healthy habits. So, implementing micro habits, 5 minute meditation, 10-minute walk. If you can do that, first thing in the morning, and before you go to bed, being able to sit and talk about what are you grateful for. The reason why I am saying that is because it helps you with bringing yourself back to present. Another thing that stresses everyone out is either thinking of the past and thinking of the future. It has its place to think about the future. So it can be forward thinking, future focus, and goal setting. It has its place to think about the past because, oh, we need to think about the past because we don't want to be doomed to repeat it otherwise. But it's another where you don't live in those spaces. Yes, you got to be present in the here and now. And what better way to be in the here and now than gratitude? Thinking about what are you grateful for today? At night, being able to write down, think of some positive things, reminding yourself, even if it's one thing, I was able to wake up this morning. You can start there, activate it, activate your mind, activate your body, activate your emotions, activate your senses to now regulate and take control and take hold of your narrative so that when you go to bed, your subconsciousness won't be fighting you because you'll be asleep. So it's soaking in those positive thoughts, the gratitude, the things that you're grateful for. And then you're reinforcing it as you're charging your battery at night with your phone, your computer, you're charging yourself up to the point that now you're waking up and rising up to what are you grateful for today? So that whatever comes your way, you built that memory muscle. You gave your mind the ammunition it needs to combat, to deal with, to navigate effectively. And be patient because things just don't change overnight because you've been the way that you've been for a long time. So now we're introducing you to a new default, and it takes time. You got to nurture it, water it, be all in with it, make it as of importance to you. But again, in the end, it is absolutely well worth it. And the messages that you'll give to me in LinkedIn about, oh my gosh, this actually does work. That is what I'm striving for to hear from you. So make sure that you implement those micro habits. You'll be better off for it. And we already talked about um, guided breathing. So the 3-3-3, inhale 3 times, hold it, or inhale for 3 count, hold it for 3 counts, exhale it out for 3 counts. You can do it from 3 to 5 times. So stress management for busy professionals at Amazon. Please know that I call it respecting the slots, time blocking. So whether you write down from the time that you wake up to the time that you go to bed, and that you are doing it in either half an hour increments or even hour increments, you can look at your schedule from Sunday to Saturday and you can block out what are the non negotiables, times that you cannot let anything enter in. I want you to find some time in your schedule where you see an open space where you can put yourself in and not pencil yourself in, but pin yourself in, where you are respecting your slot, your time. Nothing comes into it. You need your time, even during the day. You have to make you matter more as opposed to making everything and everyone else matter more, and you are left maxed out, burnt out, stressed out. You have to now see yourself as being of high importance as well, when nothing will come into your time and that you are non negotiable. So start blocking out your time. Know this: no is a complete sentence. No is a complete sentence. It does not need any explanation. If people say why, because I said so, you can say no if you can without thinking of the worst. Now, you know your situations at Amazon and wherever you are. So just be mindful. But where you can say no and start to look at what are the benefits of saying no, how it works out, consider that. I just invite you to consider delegating tasks where you can so that you're not taking it all on for the sake of validating yourself or feeling like you're important. Oh, I do this so that I can feel important. I do this so that people can think that I'm important, but you're still getting burnt out, maxed out, stressed out. It doesn't benefit you. It nullifies all of that. Delegate accordingly so that you're not working alone. There'll be more possibly people that you don't even know that will be more than happy to help you and support you. We already talked about EMDR. We talked about the stats, about the demands that can lead to burnout. Harvard, I'm sorry, Harvard Business Review had talked about 67% of employees had high job demands that led to burnout, but we already talked about what things you could do to help yourself out and to reduce those numbers. We talked about the EMDR. Not only can you breathe, but you can also tap. I said earlier that you can sit, you can close your eyes, think of something that may be stressful, and start tapping 15 to 20 times on each side to see if that will actually move. Like I said earlier about EMDR, it's like about processing again, reprocessing, digesting, and letting your body kind of work out what you may have had as a bad memory or a trigger or a trauma, and then take and extract what the message is from those emotions so that it can benefit you and that you learn from it. So tapping for 15 to 20 times on each side, we call it the butterfly, and just imagine a stressful situation, and you'll be surprised that after those taps that the scene may change, your image of that may change, and it moves it forward. You start to look at some ideas, inspirations that may come to you that you should write down and utilize it when the time is right. So, as we wrap up, balancing personal and professional priorities, the difference between work life balance and work life harmony is more of you're trying to balance equally between your work and your home life. And at times, it seems like work overpowers and overtakes your personal life. Work life harmony or integration is a pivoting move where you are looking at how can you integrate or blend your work and your professional life, but still maintain the boundaries. Meaning, for an example, Keisha has shared about the things that she had to do that would still benefit for her family and still was able to benefit her work. And how do you see the benefits of if you have to do some adjustments, if it is possible? So whether you don't have a 9 to 5 traditional job, but you're able to attend to some of your personal matters during work hours and then still be able to finish up work hours when able or when you need to. So seeing where you can adjust, seeing what things can work out for you so that you can integrate and harmonize the work life scenario to benefit you and all those who are involved. Align your work with your personal values, schedule personal time, time to unplug, time to decompress, even a digital detox. We're on this computer and the phone's too long. Sometimes we have to put an alert on our phones to start shutting things down. Everything is set for me at 10 p.m. Everything shuts down. So that's telling me, oh, it's time for me to go to bed. And the stat says, according to HBR, employees with good work life balance are 21% more productive. So, at your leisure, I want you to write down one work goal out of everything that we talked about today. What is your one work goal and one personal goal and one self care activity that you plan to implement for next week? I want you to write down one work goal, one personal goal, and one self care activity you plan to implement for next week. So I'm holding you accountable for you to do this exercise, and you can look at it often. And whatever ideas, inspirations, free associate, whatever comes to mind, first thoughts, don't question it, other than just write it down. Because you may be surprised that that is your holistic totality of yourself. Its way to help move your vision forward and to help you to know how to balance work life harmony. And lastly, embracing flexibility and adaptability. You have to identify productive hours, set flexible schedules where and when possible. Your work life integration, we've mentioned about that and talked about that, the harmonizing of your work and life instead of balancing. And another stat, companies with flexible work options see 25% decrease in turnover. All right. And then lastly, please make sure that you set your boundaries. What boundaries are you struggling with? You need to write that down so that now that gives your subconsciousness a chance to answer that question. What boundaries are you struggling with? So then you can come up with answers on how to start putting and structuring boundaries for your work and your home life. Here's one in terms of setting boundaries. I mentioned earlier that everything on my computer, my phone, it all shuts down at 10 o'clock. I had to program it so that everything can shut down. So try to see if it's possible, less emails after work hours, separating workspaces, setting family time. Those are some boundary tips that you can implement where you can set and create your home life if you're working from home to give you that sense of having work. But then for me, for instance, for me working at home and having a home office and a physical office, for my home office, I actually have a sign where I have the open and close. So when I leave out of my home office and I'm entering into my living room, I turn that sign right over. I am closed. I am done. I'm not going back to my office because that is my way of setting my boundaries so then I can go into caregiver mode. So leaving counseling, coaching, consulting at the office and then going into caregiver mode. And then after that, having some me time. All right. So please, final takeaways, prioritize self care, manage your stress, prevent burnout, and work life harmony is a continuous process, not a one time achievement. So please give yourself grace, give yourself courtesy for the work and everything that you do. A win is a win is a win. So even the small successes are leading you to big wins. So do not discount anything and everything that you're doing. Even you showing up today is a win. This is part of your work life harmony that you are striving to have. So count it that and give yourself credit along the way. Open it up to any questions and comments. And yeah, may you start implementing the strategy today. Thank you.
All right. There were no questions dropped, but you touched on multiple great areas and actions that we can take to create that balance that we're looking for. And I know I'm excited about the homework because I think I'm going to drop this in a group chat text with quite a few of my friends today and challenge everyone for that. But like you said, once you share it with someone, that accountability piece, you're more likely to do it.
Yes,
Um,
exactly.
appreciate what you've shared today.
Awesome. Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. It's my pleasure. I listen, energy begets energy. So I just love the fact of being able to pour in to what I have learned. And my goal is to help you all to be limitless leaders in your own right. It's part of my brand about being limitless, to tap into your limitless potential, to take off the limits and go after your next level of greatness and purpose. And it's also in turn, it's not about having you to turn into me in terms of how I am as a limitless leader. This is about me activating your limitless leader within you so that you are given the ideas, the inspirations that's already there, and you trusting that, trusting yourself and the ideas that come up for you, and not discount it, but try it. You never know where it may lead.
Yes. Thank you so much. It has been a pleasure having you today, Dr. Langley. Appreciate your time and look forward to us building off of this and creating the environment we want.
Yes, 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 yes. Rooting for you all. And thank you again for your time.
Thank you. You have an amazing day.
You too now, Keisha. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye bye.
Bye.